The sound is driving me crazy.
Kind of nice, I think. Soothing. Like rain on a tin roof.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. It's time to listen to Mom. I have a goal today. What is the best zombie film that is also underrated or unknown? This is difficult because it can also mean a drop in quality for sure. So this is my zombie hunt, and that is my goal. Now, one thing about me is that I own like 30 plus zombie films on DVD. I literally love zombie films. And I've had to catch up throughout the years as I got really busy, but I try my best to, keep growing my library from watching every zombie film from George Romero, including Survival of the Dead, yes, Resident Evil, sadly, Zombie, the unofficial sequel of Dawn of the Dead, 28 Days Later, Train to Busan, Dead Snow, Rambach, Dance of the Dead, Shaun of the Dead, yes, Warm Bodies, One Cut of the Dead. I mean, the list goes on. Trust me, I could sit here and just keep listing them. Speaking of which, comment down below your favorite underrated zombie film. Some I have been even catching up as of late. One I watched recently was The Cured, another #Alive, and The Night Eats the World, which I'll save for a future video to talk about. Real quick, as you can tell, we are still a new channel, so any and all support me in the world, likes, comments, and subscribes. So, let's continue our journey. I literally sat down with my stack of DVDs and was asking, what movie do I go with? I researched each of their budgets first, and that gave me the idea of the type of marketing they may have. So I made the assumption that the larger the budget usually means having some sort of budget to market the movie itself. I felt like that was pretty logical. I also kept looking at foreign zombie films because those in other languages, as they probably would not be the first on the list for the average moviegoer. But I felt like that was a cop-out because overseas they could be also very well known within their own market. Here's an example. Train to Busan did get a sequel, while once was underrated, has achieved that stardom. And honestly, it's a well-deserved and fantastic film. Then I asked myself, what if I chose a film that is also older, because at this point its hype would have been slowed or just stopped altogether? Then the answer became very clear. The Battery. The story is quite simple. Forced together by a zombie apocalypse, two former baseball players find the relationship becoming strained as they struggle to survive each day. Jeremy Gardner is the star, director, and writer, along with Adam Cronheim, his co-star. I'm sorry if I mispronounced any of the names. But this makes sense if you hear what I have next to say. The film was made on a $6,000 budget. Yes, only $6,000. And keep in mind, this is 2013. Not only that, but it was also finalized and shot in 15 days. Of course, editing, yes, but in terms of like getting every shot that they needed, 15 days, approximately. Now, at around 57-minute mark, this is literally where the final 41 minutes of the film really shine. I won't spoil too much, but if you watch trailers where our two characters end up, it gets cramped and intense inside that car. This has sat with me now for over 11 years later, and I did rewatch it to make sure that the intensity was still there, that it wasn't just a fluke. It is truly masterful in terms of filmmaking, and the lead up is what makes it really fantastic around these two characters. The lead up, again, is everything. You're gonna hear me say that a lot in this pretty much, I guess you call it, review or hype up video, which makes the struggle make even more sense of how they got the car, the experiences of the car, and also learning about their strengths and weaknesses as people. Trust me though, the budget does show a lot in this movie. But if you honestly delve into the world and the zombies are an intense backdrop to the ending, I even ask myself, could this be a play? I could literally see something like this on Broadway really work. For some, I know it might be asking a ton to invest in what this is, a slow burn, which is why we should delve into the honesty side of this film overall. Here are the flaws. First, the slow burn. Now, the slow burn, if you have seen The Exorcist, it can be quite a drag at the start. This is also very true for this film itself, which is why I gave that marker around 57 minutes. If you start from there and watch to the end, it really doesn't let up. At this point, you could skip to that spot, but you'll miss all the essential character development and the tension that builds from these characters who you end up rooting for. What I appreciate is that everything that does happen is vital to the eventual lead up. Jeremy Gardner even wrote the script like I mentioned prior, and it's honestly, I think it's very well written. And I have to highlight that because one person is doing a whole lot for this film. But what I do appreciate is that everything does actually happen for a reason, and that it doesn't waste your time. Now, it is debatable if the time that you're watching is something that you enjoy versus something that you don't. So that goes to my next point, the zombie backdrop. For some that are looking for a zombie film, the zombies are not always present, and that can mean a lot for some individuals when you have an expectation of a zombie film. They are the theme of the film. Now, if you're watching this, I'm sorry if that's disappointing for some of you, but as we get to that later mark, trust me, it does pay off. So I'm making sure to make a big note of it here. So as you're watching the movie, you're like, how dare you? Why'd you share this movie? Because zombie films are, for some, are gore, action, and that's the key component, you know, popcorn film. But what we get in this film is tension and realism, which is a kind of an odd trade-off, which is, again, the strongest point because it does feel realistic for a zombie film. I felt invested, and maybe it's not scary because also that's another expectation, is that zombie movies are supposed to be scary. And it is scary, but in a different way. Now, let's talk about another negative here of too many montages. When you watch this film, you'll know what I mean by the too many montages. It still helps build the world, but it could have been shaved down. I stand by the dialogue and the actual set pieces themselves being vital, which is why I'm saying if you cut the montages out here, you know, you could probably save perhaps a lot of time and remove some of that boredom that you might experience. I understand that because when you hear the word zombie, like I mentioned before, it comes with a certain expectations right out the gate. Let's circle back to the positives because I feel like I've pretty much cleared up all the issues, and we'll go back to what I love about the movie. Well, one could harp on the budget because they're clearing a house or a building, but man, does it show in those moments specifically. It's like, wow, what was this shot on? But I could also see how that's the charm of it though. So I'm unsure if it's really a negative, which is why I didn't put it in negative, because if it was a high budget movie, I wonder if some of that realism or that connection to the character would fade. What may be difficult is if you just don't like these characters, so the movie won't sit. But for me, I was able to invest and see their downsides as people, but also their positives. Because these two characters, their ideals clash pretty hard, despite working together prior to the zombie apocalypse of being ball players, right? Because of the realism of acting, I was able to immerse myself into the world and the dialogue. It really helped mask the flaw of the budget for me. It was like sitting down reading World War Z. They spoke about things and they shared experiences, but because of how they spoke about it, you could really visualize it. It did not need to be seen or told. You could have done a cutaway, but it really felt like that would have cheapened the acting in those moments. But that ending and lead up, it really sinks in, and I really want to see a part 2 on a bigger budget to see how things scale. Because I feel like that's really the next step, is scaling this, scaling that feeling, that intensity. You'll know if you watch it, but I'm confident I gave enough warnings and flaws, but also why I love this movie so much. When we speak on foreign films such as Rambach or even #Alive, I really enjoy movies that are creative around the zombie apocalypse and not just run-of-the-mill standard stuff, cookie cutter stuff. So you're going to get something different here, something very different, which is a great change of pace. So I really pass the baton now to you, and I want to know your thoughts. Have you seen this movie? Did I do it justice? Did I find truly an underrated film for you to watch? Or just be blunt and say this movie sucked and I really hated it. And trust me, there's a lot of people that don't like it. I've seen comments, I've seen people talking about it in forums that are very split on it. But overall, the ratings do kind of speak for themselves. And if you do watch it, the people who I've shared it with have enjoyed it. And I just rewatched it a few nights ago. So again, I thank you for all the support on the channel. We're still growing this here. This is still new. If you're interested in just getting an honest thought and approach to films, movies, news, updates of anything entertainment across the board from video games to movies, be sure to subscribe here for more. Thank you again. We'll see you all very soon.